Welcome, everybody. This is Venture Cafe Live. These are just short, informal interviews with
looks like we are
different makers, entrepreneurs, builders, whether they're expats, transplants, or locals. We want to hear all the cool things that are happening out there to make the city better. Today with us, we have Jonathan Hanahan, who actually is a transplant himself, but has been in St. Louis for a couple of years now, planting roots and launching cool initiatives. Jonathan, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Howard.
So just to get started, wanted to hear just if you can share just a brief background on where you're coming from, what you're working on right now, like what your day job is, and then we'll jump into what you're working on with the Alliance.
Yeah, sure. So I'm like Tyler said, I moved here 6 years ago to join the faculty at WashU. I teach in the art school, mostly doing like creative technology, interaction design, creative coding sort of stuff. And then I have an art and design practice that sort of explores the physical ramifications of the internet. So I've come and talked about my work at Venture Cafe before, which is cool, but this is cool to like talk a little bit about what I would my second career, my dream career. It's maybe what we would call it.
So where do we start with this? So I want to know what prompted you to create the St. Louis Cycling Alliance. But before we do that, can you give a brief elevator pitch of what this is?
Yeah. So I'll get into the details of the why, but basically this is like an initiative to basically create more opportunity for support, success, and exposure for like local racers at a national scene. And so the idea of the Alliance is not to say we're forming a new team or we're like gonna make like an all-star team but what we're gonna do is like maintain the local structure and say, go out of town to these big showcase events rather than showing up like with one or two guys from one or two teams, guys and gals from individual teams, and then have to race against a huge field. We're going to say, what happens if everybody from the local community that goes to an event like this sort of joins forces and races in sort of honor of our local culture, right? So we sort of represent the local scene on the national level, and the hope is really to say, again, like to say or to kind of create more opportunity to be successful and gain support and stuff, but also to promote to the rest of the country that how good of a cycling culture St. Louis has, and that this is a destination to it's for people that are interested in this to live and work and sort of be a part of. So yeah.
So that might be new for some of the people that attend Venture Cafe. As far as like there's a cycling culture here. There's a St. Louis. I made a joke that it's the city of the most known like high quality talent in the area. We have all these different like subcultures here that are really top notch, but no one has any idea within the St. Louis community that they're here. So what's a brief picture of what the cycling community looks like in St. Louis?
Yeah, and I didn't know either. Like I mean I moved here 6 years ago as like a sort of recreational cyclist, and maybe I didn't even realize until recently just how like special this community actually is. Because hearing about scenes in other towns, my brother, for example, races out of Cleveland, right? And actually he races here because like the community isn't like, we have this robust community that he just says like, all right, I'm just going to come every time there's a race, I'm going to come here, right? So he sort of races out of St. Louis. And I think the things that we have, we have this amazing, just from as a cycling city, we have like an amazing and growing trail network, both like, between here in Kansas City, throughout the city, out in Illinois. It's just like really top notch. We have a whole bunch of like really community oriented, strong local teams that support, group rides and events. And then we just have a ton of races too. I mean, we have throughout the year, there's a lot of races happening that kind of keeps the scene going. And then unique things too, where like we have the Penrose Velodrome, right? Like something that goes totally overlooked, but is a super unique opportunity that a lot of cities don't have. So these are things that I think just lead to like there's a really just tight knit community of people that is really, really worth celebrating for sure.
So how does that translate into making St. Louis having this strong community, this competitive, nationally competitive group of folks that are touring around the U.S. representing STL? How does that translate to like benefiting the community? Like why would people care? Is that so maybe there's some cyclists that are interested in from other cities? You and I had mentioned at one point that it seems to be that that cycling is becoming like the new golf, and so what are what's some of the benefits, or what do you see some of the value is beyond just like helping grow this community? What's the external benefits of that as well?
Yeah, I mean cycling as a thing, as a community, is both like really diverse and not diverse at all, in that like you get this huge range of people that show up to these events and these rides and stuff, and then you end up spending a group ride might be 3 or 4 hours, right? And you're put in this situation with people you would likely never like communicate with, hang out with, all bit because of this this piece of technology, this like thing that we ride, right? And so that's like this really rich opportunity that like the sport in general presents, right? But it also has a very like high threshold for entry, right? Like equipment is expensive, and so that also traveling is expensive, race fees are expensive, and so that also sets a threshold for entry that's unfortunate. And so I think part of this is to say, and we have, again, I said locally, we have this really strong network of teams that race each other competitively, and it's super fun to like participate in, and we want to maintain that, right? Like we don't want to form a super team that isn't fun for anybody else to race against, right? We want to still like duke it out with each other, and that community has been largely locally, I think largely locally oriented, right? And so when individuals, again, like I said, the threshold to enter the national scene is very high because that our local community is focused on things that are happening here. There's not a lot of opportunities for like to get support, or to even just to like coordinate with other people to travel, right? Like, and so when you show up to something like Tulsa Tough is one of the biggest races of the year in Tulsa, and locally we might race in fields of like 50 people in a race, right? And Tulsa, you show up to like a minimum of 100, close to 120 people in a field, right? Racing by yourself in that is really more like just hanging on is like a lot of times just the goal, right? And so, but to show up with 7 like-minded teammates, it puts you in the show, right? It gives you an opportunity to be successful. And so what we're trying to do is lower the barrier of entry for people that are interested in participating in these type of events. And then subsequently, and so, we're trying to create an inclusive program that would, give opportunities for people that might not go to these types of events because they're super exciting. On the flip side of that, being successful at these types of events and sharing that narrative, it promotes why this is a great place to be, right? And so, especially as, I think this is something that St. Louis, and I'm a transplant, but I think we all know that this is something that St. Louis always struggles with, is like, why would I come here, right? And like a lot of times, myself included, sort of happened into this place, right? This is where I ended up, but there's an opportunity to make a choice to be in a place like this, right? And all the benefits that come with it, to be able to say, like, look at what we would bring to the table, both in terms of like professional opportunities, but also cultural and social opportunities too. So I think this is like, this started really as an idea to like, to keep us motivated, right? To like get excited for like the hope, like for next year. And the more the group that's involved, we kind of have a crew right now. It's like we have basically we have 6 kind of core people who are who already invested in going to races in next year, and that we're sort of working this out collectively as like liaisons to the rest of the community. But the more we talked about it and the more we thought about it, is like there's all these opportunities to kind of to let this thing kind of go both ways, right? That like to create opportunities for people to kind of participate in national events, because it's a super unique experience, and subsequently bring that participation as a way to kind of promote what we're doing locally as well. So
got it. So how can people who aren't in the racing community but love to see these kinds of things succeed, how can we support? What do we do?
Yeah, so like there's a bunch of ways. So one is and maybe some people who are listening do want to participate, and that's a big thing that we want to promote too, is that this isn't a team that says like you can be on the team and you can't be on the team. What we're really trying to promote is that you're interested in participating in going to this event and racing under the St. Louis flag. We want to be able to make that happen. So we want to be able to give people a jersey to wear, cover the cost of registration, help offset the cost of travel. And that's a little bit in terms of like sharing the load, but also kind of to do that, we need to find partners who are interested in helping make that happen. And so that's really what we're kind of starting to work with a lot of, again, like in a local scene, a lot of the sponsors are locally oriented companies, and which is great and makes that like brings the sort of like relationship of the city together. But St. Louis also has a ton of like locally proud companies that also have national sort of marketing and recruitment interests too. And so I think we're really just sort of reaching out and starting conversations with those types of organizations that would want to see this thing grow. It comes down to like equipment. It comes down to just like, travel expenses. It comes down to like the nuts and bolts and stuff. But we hope that by like promoting not only the like success in the scene, because at the end of the day, like this is all our like hobby, right? We're sort of like we all have other jobs, and we all understand that we're not professionals, but this is a culture that we're really like sort of proud to participate in. And so that's really what we're planning to do, is like be competitive, but also sort of document the story of like the travel, the sort of experiences at these races, and like the whole package really. So
what I hear from you then, there's 2 ways really the general community can get involved. So one, if people want to support somehow, I guess more so in the case of like corporates or whatever that would want to see that they're looking for talent, they might want to be able to sponsor to help. And then also just people getting engaged with what you're doing, whether they want to race or just follow along. And if they do want to follow along, how do they do that? You have a website and an Instagram page, right? What are those?
So the website is stlouiscyclingalliance.com. And that's really sort of where we'll sort of promote a lot of the events that we're participating in, sort of updates. And then also we have an Instagram that we've started that's stl.alliance. Really this sort of kicks off, it's really sort of kicking off now, but we'll kind of run through what we hope will be a 2021 season and into the future, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I just put the links there into the YouTube chat for those who want to follow along. Jonathan, anything else we should leave with? Any other final notes on? Well, I guess actually, before I even say that, when is the first race with you guys? What would be the starting date?
Yeah, so usually we start in April. So the first race we're officially going to do is the Joe Martin stage race, which is down in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's like a 4-day road race, which is a little bit atypical from what we're used to in the Midwest. And again, actually, that's something I forgot to mention why this is a rich opportunity for St. Louis is because of where we're geographically located. We actually are really close to touching a lot of these huge events. So I mentioned Tulsa, and we talked about Joe Martin, and Intelligentsia Cup is in Chicago. And so within a 5-mile range, we have all these things that we could have a huge footprint in, but we often don't, right? So the hope is to really take advantage of yes, we have all these great things locally, but we can actually have a huge impact nationally in a lot of this stuff. So I think we'll really sort of kick off in Joe Martin in April, and then come back to town and race against each other locally, and then link back up for to go to Tulsa in June, and likely like I said, the Intelligentsia Cup, which is an 11-day race in Chicago in July. So yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Jonathan, again for for going out and doing this. That's awesome to see. Love seeing people just starting things, the things that they want to see happen, making it happen themselves. And then also too, for your time today. I know you're a busy guy with everything you're working on these days. So thanks again. And for those of you who join a little later too, STL, the St. Louis Alliance, Cycling Alliance, we have the website, stlouiscyclingalliance.com, and Instagram at stl.alliance if you want to follow along and see what Jonathan's doing. So thanks again, Jonathan. We'll see you around soon.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.